Play softer music, they told me. Don't start the show. Devin, I got to know. Like, what the hell? What? Devin Robertson, the guy on the other side of the glass. What was going I couldn't even turn on my microphone. Am I getting... My pass card worked, but if the microphone doesn't, like, I'm getting concerned here. What's going on?
Order of priorities? I actually...
Did you turn it on for me?
I fixed what was wrong with it. I don't know how the error came up.
I'm so glad that you can fix things because I am just a hot mess. No, I'm just a cold mess over here. I'm the opposite of hot mess. I am a cold mess. My microphone did not... Like, I have one job. Push the red button that says on, and it wouldn't go on. Should I be worried?
No.
No?
No.
So everything's fine now?
Yeah, we're smooth sailing the rest of the day.
Can I turn the microphone off again?
If you want to.
Okay.
There you go.
And now it's on again. Okay, good. Whew. Devin Robertson, you have just saved 4 hours of radio that this station could not program without us.
That's what I'm paid to do.
That's what you're paid to do. I hope there's a little something extra in your paycheck. It is payday here at Rogers Kitchener Radio.
Best day of the week.
Led Zeppelin starts our show today. It was on this day in 1971. That is a very good vintage, by the way. 1971. That Zeppelin released its fourth album. And much like the people who came up with the name for this show, hey, Farwell, you want to host a talk show? Sure. We're going to call it the Mike Farwell Show. Zeppelin released their fourth album that they appropriately entitled Four. And Rock and Roll was their second single from that album, released this day in 1971. In case you were wondering, if you're still a little bit confused about that tax increase in the city of Cambridge, I just want to let you know it is not, and I repeat, not 1.26%.
We looked at the 25 budget. We see it as a 4.68% average, or cost increase to the average Cambridge household. Some money was taken from the city's reserves to bring the 25 cost increase down to the 4.68%. So we don't really know what the actual increase is. That should be disclosed in the executive summary of the budget.
Thanks to our friend John Waylett with the Property Taxpayers Alliance appearing at Cambridge Council last night to talk about the budget, making it clear that the increase is 4.68%. That's how much more the average resident in Cambridge will pay to live in the city this year. And as Mr. Waylett points out, and I think the city should do, that executive summary of the budget should make it more clear how much more you will be paying. But it is not, and I repeat, not 1.25 or 1.26%. It is 4.68%. Your tax increase in Cambridge. Don't even get me started on the 12% at the region. Holy Hannah, 12%. Regional Councillor Colleen James is with us on Council Chambers this morning at 10. Talk about the budget and other things with her when she stops by. All right, let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning. Number one, a retired teacher who criticized books about gender identity at a school board meeting can proceed with her defamation lawsuit against the Waterloo Region District School Board. That from Ontario's Court of Appeal, allowing Carolyn Berjowski's case to move forward. In its ruling, the appeal court said, quote, in bringing her claim, Berjowski was not preventing the board from expressing views or enforcing policies aimed at addressing the disadvantage experienced by transgender persons. Number two, the Waterloo Region District School Board has won an Innovation Award from the Global Innovation Management Institute. Director of Education, Jiwan Chanaka, traveled to Spain to pick up the award, with the board noting that, quote, he paid his own travel expenses and the institute covered his ticket to the conference. Now, this is important because the school board in Brantford, as you'll remember, was recently blasted for expensing $45,000 for a trip to Italy. And we have just learned of a board in Lambton, Kent, that billed $32,000 for a trip to Hawaii. It's good to be in education these days. Number three on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. The University of Waterloo says its Instagram account has been taken over by a hacker. UW says do not engage with any direct messaging from that account until they've regained control. The school says for now, the hacker has not conducted any activity on the account. Number four on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau revived a Canada-U.S. Relations Cabinet Committee after Donald Trump's win in the U.S. presidential election. The committee will meet today for the first time since Trump left office in 2021 Yesterday, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said Canada will stand firm on its plan to rein in the number of newcomers entering the country, despite concerns that Trump's re-election could spur an influx of migrants from the United States. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, thanks to Carrie for letting me know. Of course, Monday is Remembrance Day, and there will be a ceremony held at Veterans Green, which is at the corner of Glen and Spadina Roads in the St. Mary's Heritage District. So you could check out that Remembrance Day ceremony at 11 o'clock on Monday morning, Remembrance Day. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Friday morning, the 8th of October. Tonight marks the Remembrance Day game with the Kitchener Rangers. It is always a fantastic night, and there are some special announcements coming from our friends at Rangers Reach. You'll hear about them right after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Fridays are game days in the city of Kitchener. Rangers home to the Sioux Greyhounds tonight, looking to take their winning streak into double digits. That's on the ice. But this also marks, as it is the Friday before Remembrance Day, our Remembrance Day game at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. And you know as well as I know that this hockey club always knocks it out of the park for Remembrance Day. Craig Campbell is the executive director of Rangers Reach. He sits across from me in studio this morning. He brings coffee with him, and not just any old coffee, some really good coffee. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
I'm glad to have you here on such a busy day when I know you've got probably close to 1 million other things to get ready for the game.
I might be the second busiest person in the region behind you with tasks to do. You know what? This week has been incredibly busy. We've got lots of things on the go, but the lead up to Remembrance Day is, it's always a busy time in prep because of, one, the ceremony we do is the most important thing. And when I say we, that's a collective. Rangers Reach, Kitchener Rangers Hockey Club, community. That's an important event. And I know you and I have talked about it before. It's probably the highlight event in the hockey season for us. It holds a lot of value and importance. So we should never let that get lost, especially with everything else that's going on in the world. Like tonight at 7 o'clock, it's important.
Yeah, it's
right?
So well said, Craig, and a good opportunity for us to pause for that minute.
Yep.
I know fans every year look forward to the Teddy Bear game, rightfully so. Games against London, rightfully so. Coming up, by the way, on the 19th, the game against London. But this one always, for me, stands out too because of the way the organization does it. The tribute before the game, Dave Schneider will have his voice on it, our public address announcer. It's going to be great. From the Rangers Reach side of things, I've seen some teasers online, Craiger. I mean, have you seen this jersey yet?
Yeah, actually, I have the picture right in front of me.
Come on.
The full on with Ando.
Oh, look at that. The poppy on the breast. How much of this can I talk about?
You can talk about it. You can talk about it all. It's going to be out on socials very shortly if it isn't already.
Okay.
We had to do a little negotiation yesterday to push up the release a little bit to get things out because, as you know, Rangers Reach, not only do we have what we expect to be a big game day 50-50 today, but we also are blessed in the sense that we get one of these game-ready jerseys from the hockey club to put on our jersey raffle today. And it's a popular item. So we wanted to get that out in our communication out to our list this morning. And to do that, you can't ask people to buy tickets on a jersey raffle if you can't see the jersey. So that's we have it out there, rangersjersey.com. You can get in for as little as $5. Look, the only way to get in on the Remembrance Day jerseys are either the jersey raffle for the one game issued jersey or the game worns that go in the auction that will take place at the auditorium. And I believe I was informed yesterday some of those jerseys will be available in online auctions. So check the Rangers social media channels for that. that will take place and finish up post-game in the subscribers lounge, where you can bid on the game-worn jerseys. And I did have someone ask me yesterday, will they be laundered? Yes, they will be laundered.
Well, speaking of that, you were commenting earlier about busy people in this region. I had a chance encounter with Dan Liebold earlier this week, the equipment manager and trainer. I know he was taking a little break, getting some fresh air on a nice afternoon, and I said, "Wait a minute!" Like, I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, "Isn't it a little late for you, Danny? Why are you working so late?" And he just rolled his eyes. I'm like, "Oh, of course, he's got to get the Remembrance Day jerseys ready, so he's sewing. He's going to have them laundered, and then."
Well, it's funny. Auction. It's funny you say that because I went in to see him early this week, so I could just grab a jersey from him to take a snap of the front so that we could put it on our jersey raffle sales page. We usually have a little vignette on the page. And when I walked up to his office, he goes, "I haven't got any time today." I said, "I don't need anything. I just want to borrow a jersey and let you know." So there's how busy he was.
Yeah.
He was jammed, especially when things come in late, right? Like a lot of the stuff, I think the socks just came in maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's not a lot of time to turn around when you're getting photos and all that stuff. The other thing with the auction and the jersey raffle, the funds that we raise from that combined through the organization, we support the Poppy Fund, Rangers Reach, and the Rangers support the KW Poppy Fund and the 78th Fraser Highlanders. So there'll be, I believe, a check presentation tonight from last year, representing last year's proceeds out to those organizations. And I think it's important that those funds stay local here. And it's part of the tradition that we've built at the auditorium.
So rangersjersey.com, and you'll be able to see the beautiful jersey right there. Online tickets for as little as $5 to get in on that. And then the game-worn jersey auction, subscribers lounge after the game tonight. Yeah,
and as well the online component. So just check Rangers socials. They'll have the link for the online or their website. We'll share it out as well today. It's important. And then, of course, we have our regular game day 50-50. And, I'm not one... when you're a sports kind of minded guy as you are, and I am, I'm not a stats sports guy. Like, I can't go and tell you last night in the NHL, there were this many things happening. This guy got this point. Like, that's not me, right? But tonight it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. We looked at our 50-50s from last year, and when things start to progress, it was the Friday before last year. The Friday before Remembrance Day was our first $10,000 prize. Interesting. Last Friday before Remembrance Day, first $10,000 prize. Remembrance Day last year was over 15 grand, 50-50. So I think someone's going to go home with a big check tonight. Well, and that's what we like, because if someone goes home with a big check, our community gets a big amount through our process. And we're going through our grant applications are open right now for about another 11 or 12 days. They close I believe on November 20th on a Wednesday. So organizations out there that deal with youth and amateur sport and are looking for grant funding, get to our webpage, rangersreach.com/apply. And get all the details. Application's pretty easy to fill out online, and we'll get it in front of our committee for consideration. We're granting up to $15,000 is the maximum amount you can request on a grant. And you could be a small organization, a bigger organization, 2 streams, 0 to 5,000, and then 5,000 and 1 to 15,000. So, we have cash that we raised last year. We want to give it out. And I was hoping to have a big announcement today on another funding piece that we're doing, but we're on the edge. So that'll be next week.
Okay.
I'll share it with you for next week. And but it's a big one, and it's important, especially given some of the landscape in the sport world, and in particular hockey. We want to make sure that we're doing our part in our community to help change the culture.
I think I have an idea of where that might be. Okay, looking forward to getting details on that. And I'm glad you mentioned the support into the community and those applications that are open. rangersreach.com/apply. Because as much fun as we have buying our tickets and hoping we might win the prize, there is that other aspect of it. So.
Yeah, I don't want every visit I come when you invite me, I don't want it to be a call for people to spend money. We also want to make sure that, we are giving back to our community, and this is a great opportunity. We always, in the fall, this is when we open them up. So, check out our website, see if your organization qualifies, and get an application in. We want applications. We want to give this money out.
And let's make sure we get a look at that jersey that's online, rangersjersey.com, and I'm sure the site is open for 50-50 sales already.
Everything's jersey raffle is open, 50-50 is open. We're excited for a big night tonight.
I'm going to make sure I get my ticket early so when I get busy at the game, I don't forget to buy it. Craiger, love the work that you do. Love you, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Mike.
Craig Campbell, the Executive Director of Rangers Reach, joining us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. I'm going to quickly get to the phones because Paul has been waiting so patiently. Paul, I literally have 30 seconds, but I want to hear from you.
I was just sitting here taking my meds, and I heard this voice say, "Call the Mike Farwell Show now." I'm not sure why, but I figured, well, that's what the voice said, so I'm calling.
That's all? I came to you, well, you were less than 30 seconds.
I'm just going to let you know, you're going to get a break from me again next week.
I don't like breaks from you, Paul. I like to hear from you. But I'm glad that the big voice that says, "Call the Mike Farwell Show now," prompts you to do just that. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. I think it would be fair to say it's not your typical municipal council motion, but it certainly caught the attention of my ears when Ward 4's Ross Earnshaw in Cambridge this week tabled a motion around lithium-ion batteries, the aftermarket variety. So let's learn more about that as Councillor Earnshaw joins the show this morning. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning, Mike.
What motivated you to bring forward this motion about aftermarket lithium-ion batteries?
Well, if you'll pardon a bad pun, what sparked my interest was a fire in my ward within the past year, which involved a bicycle battery that burned out the unit in which the individual was residing, fortunately without causing any injury. And then just a few weeks after that, a similar apartment fire on another street in my ward, which again burned out a unit, but this time caused such widespread disruption that some 21 persons were required to move to alternative accommodation. And some of them were living in what you might call housing insecurity and had to find a hotel in which to live short term, and of course that put stress on their finances and so forth. So I started to look into the lithium-ion batteries. I was vaguely aware that they were dangerous in some circumstances, but I was surprised by what I learned. I decided to involve the fire chief here in Cambridge, Rob Martin, and he and his staff were very helpful in educating me, and so I noted that some other municipalities had passed similar motions, and so with the fire department and the clerk's office at the city, I crafted this motion, which, as you know, passed unanimously at a recent council meeting.
I think it's important to make the distinction here too, Ross, that we're not talking about lithium-ion batteries per se in general, but it's these aftermarket batteries that cause the greatest concern.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Mike. The problem, as I learned from that investigation that I conducted, is not the batteries themselves, at least not the original equipment manufacturer batteries that come with the products, and not batteries that have what is called ULC approval. That's the Underwriter Laboratories of Canada, I always have to look that up, ULC, which is a safety quality control organization. If it's got the ULC banner on it, you can rest assured that it's a quality product. But what has happened is that because there are no regulations, and this shocked me, there are no regulations at the upper levels of government concerning the importation, sale, use, distribution, disposal, storage, you name it, for these aftermarket batteries, then a substandard or lower quality battery can be imported and distributed and sold here in Canada. And the temptation, of course, is that such batteries, because they are not subject to such rigorous standards, are offered to the public at a reduced price, and therefore they're superficially at least attractive. It's unfortunate that these batteries are far more likely to be the source of ignition and fire than the original equipment batteries.
You said something there that occurs to me in this when you talked about upper levels of government and the lack of regulation, because while I completely understand that you as a municipal councillor, and you talked about those fires in your ward, you're kind of dealing with this on the ground, and I totally get it. However, it is going to be upper levels of government, probably the feds, that have to apply some regulations here, no?
Yes, I believe that's correct. The motion had two prongs, if I could use that term. The second prong was directed to the upper levels of government and included a long list of parties to whom it should be directed at both the federal and provincial level, as well as to other municipalities in the province, so that they could consider whether they wish to similarly bring it to the attention of upper levels of government. But with the assistance of the fire department, I learned that the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office is engaging in a campaign for public education about these batteries and the dangers that they pose. And so the more local thrust of the motion was to support and endorse that campaign and provide whatever support the fire department may need to engage in a public education process. Which, by the way, I'd like to thank you for having me on this morning, because it's part of the idea behind this motion that the dangers of these batteries could be brought to the attention of the public so that safety measures can be taken.
I'm more than happy to do that, Ross, and I'm glad that you're championing this from the municipal council table, because ever since we started seeing these fires aboard transit and GO trains specifically, I've been very concerned. And that fire you talk about displacing 21 people, I think about, these storage units in apartment buildings that are built specifically, exclusively for bicycles, because so many more people are using that as a mode of transportation. I think we're headed into an area that we best try to get ahead of here.
Yes, I quite agree. And of course, once I became interested in this topic, I became sensitive to reports in the media about fires here and there. There were 2 or 3 examples just since last month or so. There was you speak of indoor storage of bicycles in Toronto. There was a fire that ignited in one e-bike and spread to other e-bikes in an underground parking garage. That was extinguished by the fire department, but only after considerable property damage and one woman suffering smoke inhalation. But there were a couple of others that were brought to my attention. One was, I believe, in the Port of Montreal, where I guess one of these sea cans, a large container full of these batteries, was the source of a fire. It had great difficulty putting that one out. And then another part that was probably the most latter adjustment to the drafting of the motion was the word disposal, because just as we were, as it were, going to print with the draft of the motion, I heard about a fire that took place in a landfill site that was sparked by one of these discarded batteries, that someone had decided, well, I don't need this anymore, and just tossed it in the garbage. And obviously, a fire of this sort is dangerous in any location, but when it's in a landfill site, you don't know what other materials, toxic or otherwise, might be nearby that could become engulfed in the flames. So as I say in the motion, there's danger to the people who are using these products, but also to the first responders who have to come and address the fire. Another thing that I learned just out of interest, Mike, is that one of the worst things you can do with one of these fires is spray water on it. I don't understand the chemical reaction, but apparently that simply spreads the flames. So conventional fire extinguishment methods don't work. And the toxic gases and fumes that can be emitted from one of these fires is enough to cause severe health concerns for anyone in the vicinity. So it's a much bigger problem than I myself understood as I began on this crusade, as it were, to inform myself and then bring to the attention of the public the problem with these batteries.
I certainly appreciate the due diligence on that and how you're sharing that now and educating the public. I'm probably a couple of steps behind you in this regard, but we had a conversation not too long ago with Puslinch Fire about the different methods, to your point about not spraying water on these fires, but how emergency responders are dealing with fires in electric vehicles. It's a whole new world out there.
A completely different source of ignition. And the motion speaks of something called thermal runaway. So when one of these batteries, whether it's small or large, and by the way, these are the batteries that are in your smartphone. So certain people with whom I've been speaking since working on this motion have stopped plugging in their phone and laying it on their bedside table at night out of fear of combustion. I don't know if that's an overreaction or not, but it is the same kind of battery, although a smaller one. Go ahead.
No, please.
I've sort of lost my train of thought, to tell you the truth.
You were talking about maybe not leaving one's phone plugged in at the bedside, and maybe that is an overreaction. I don't think we can ever be too careful with these things, though.
No, I was talking about thermal runaway. So when one of these batteries catches fire, it's an intense heat. It feeds on itself, as it were. Very difficult to put out. And so it can cause greater damage than a similar-sized fire with more conventional combustible materials. Very dangerous.
Again, really appreciate you bringing this forward. And before I let you go, I'm very interested in this, and I'm glad we could have the conversation. But I want to take a moment because you mentioned the individual or individuals who were insecurely housed when this fire broke out, the financial strain of going to a hotel. One of the other things discussed at your council meeting this week, Ross, was around giving municipalities greater control or ability to clear encampments. And while there were things in the motion that you said you could support, ultimately you had to vote against it. What were your misgivings?
Primarily, it's my legal background. So I saw some of the elements of the motion that was before the council as seeking to erode the rule of law. In this sense, everybody knows about the decision that was made by Mr. Justice Valenti regarding the encampment on Victoria Street in Kitchener, in which he held that removing an encampment without there being adequate, accessible alternative shelter or housing constituted a breach of the Section 7 Charter rights to life, liberty, and security of the person. And the thrust of the motion was in part to set aside that decision and to somehow empower municipalities to ignore that charter requirement when seeking to remove encampments. And quite aside from the other arguments that were made concerning other aspects of the motion, I simply considered that was a slippery slope towards erosion of the rule of law. And given my background, I felt it essential to step forward and say, I cannot contemplate that. I can't support it. That's why I voted against it.
As always, Ross, appreciate the thoughtful approach and the time you've given us on the show. Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ross Earnshaw is the Ward 4 councillor in the city of Cambridge, primarily about his motion. I just had to ask that at the end because we know how contentious it is and how many municipalities, frankly 400 plus in this province, are dealing with encampments and how best to control them. But I like where Ross is coming from here on this lithium-ion battery motion. Unfortunately, it's one of those situations where a municipal council can only do so much. But if we're sparking, if you'll pardon the phrasing, some conversations here and educating the public around the dangers of those aftermarket batteries particularly, I'm all for it. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
I don't understand the chemical reaction, but apparently that simply spreads the flames. So conventional fire extinguishment methods don't work, and the toxic gases and fumes that can be emitted from one of these fires is enough to cause severe health concerns for anyone in the vicinity. So it's a much bigger problem than I myself understood as I began on this crusade, as it were, to inform myself and then bring to the attention of the public the problem with these batteries.
It's a good move by a local councillor who identified a concern, did some research, got support from Cambridge Fire and the chief there, Rob Martin, and brought forward a motion to council this week, unanimously endorsed, around lithium-ion batteries, particularly of the aftermarket type. And unfortunately, all we can really do with a motion like this at the municipal level is use it to raise awareness and perhaps promote some education. There's going to have to be regulation from upper levels of government around this, primarily the feds. But this is something that we have identified on this show, starting back when we began to see these fires aboard GO trains. So many people, bicycle couriers living here, traveling to Toronto, or anywhere along that slow-moving GO transit line between the region and Toronto, these bicycle couriers packing into those cars on GO trains to get into the heart of the city so they could do their bike courier jobs. And fires were breaking out because these aftermarket, right? We're not talking about the original equipment manufacturer batteries, but these aftermarket batteries are prone to overheating and sparking fires. And we saw them on transit. You heard Ross talk about those that he has seen just in the city of Cambridge. Imagine 21 people being displaced. And I've brought it up on the show before. We have bicycle storage facilities in most apartment buildings. The new condos that are being built all over this ding-dang region, you can rest assured there are bicycle storage facilities associated with them or within them. And if you are just your average condo dweller who does not have an e-bike, and somebody else does with one of those aftermarket lithium-ion batteries, and a fire begins in that storage unit, and you end up suffering a property loss, this is something that we have to not only be aware of, we have to have insurance for, and believe you me, the insurance companies are going to be ahead of the game on this. It is something that needs to be, I think, reined in sooner rather than later before we are way too far ahead of regulation. And we're already a little bit ahead of regulation. As emailing Paul emails to me at mike@570news.com, government is notorious for their lack of what could be called preventive maintenance. Looks bad on the bottom line. Why do today what they can put off for their political opponents? Perhaps. I'm not even sure it's so expensive as it is just commonsensical, right? And sometimes I think that, look, I'll connect this to something else. In my opinion, we are seeing so many more of these electric-powered vehicles, be they bicycles. I mean, just watch people on bicycles these days. How many are actually using their legs? Honestly, you're just cruising along there with your battery assist. I get it. How about those electric scooters, right? Not only the larger ones that look like motorcycles, but even the little Neuron mobility scooters that are out. I am of the mind right now that anything that is not propelled by human power needs to be regulated. You need a license, you need insurance, you name it, because these things are whizzing all over the place on our streets today. And who's trained to properly drive them and operate them? And they move along at a pretty good clip. I say anything that is not human powered needs license, insurance, it needs to be regulated. And look how far behind we are on that kind of regulation. We absolutely need regulation on these aftermarket lithium-ion batteries. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Fridays mean lots of things. The Coaches Show at 10:30, the Other Coaches Show at 10:45, the Friday 4 Roundtable from 11 until noon, and Free Phones Friday when you can call in and have your say on the issues of the day from noon until 1. Oh, also at 10 on Friday mornings, council chambers, a deeper dive into one of our municipal councils. And today we'll do that deep dive into regional council. Regional Councillor Colleen James joins us next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. There is no shortage of issues being wrestled with around our regional council horseshoe, responsible for affordable/social housing, dealing with homelessness, and in fact their own plan to end chronic homelessness. The budget generally and the police budget specifically. I could go on and on, but I think I'll let our guest do that because she is at the horseshoe. She is wrestling with these issues along with her fellow councillors. Regional Councillor for Kitchener, Colleen James, joins us on Council Chambers here this morning. Colleen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm tired, Mike. I'm tired. It's been a week.
Really? You don't say, Colleen. Like nothing's going on, is there?
No. Just another regular day at regional council, a week at regional council, and budget time.
You were under no illusions. I know this, Colleen, because of your background coming in about the kinds of things you would be dealing with and the issues that were at the forefront. But as you're going through your first time around this, how does it feel? How does it compare to what you thought it would be?
Oh, it is. You're right. I kind of had a sense of, what we'd be dealing with, what I'd be navigating. And this is like something I'd never have, it is the most challenging I think I've ever seen when I've been paying attention. It is tough. It is like something I don't think any one of us have ever had to really navigate the way we are right now.
How are you approaching these budget deliberations?
It really comes down to trying to navigate what we're hearing from community, but what's needed, but also what's realistic, and hearing as well from residents that they can't afford anything. It is, I firmly believe we're in a recession right now, and how do you grapple with people wanting more services, wanting an increase? I think about transportation, but knowing, we want to increase services. You mentioned, our housing plan to end chronic homelessness, but, we can't do it all. We can't be all things to everybody, as Chair Redmond likes to say.
I don't think anybody will disagree with that. She's spot on in that assessment. We can't be. And Regional Councillor, your colleague, Doug Craig, brought forward a motion this week that was adopted seeking a meeting with provincial MPPs here in our region, looking for a new deal for the region of Waterloo, the likes of which Toronto and Ottawa has received, to help relieve some of this financial pressure at the local level. Is that important?
It's hugely important. We're putting, our plan to end chronic homelessness, major social challenges on taxpayers. And, there should be more involvement with the province. Many municipalities are speaking about a new deal. The models don't work. What was applied and what's been done 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the math is not mathing anymore. So that new deal, it has to come, and we need help. And I think with Doug Craig's motion, and, he's been saying this for quite some time, we need our MPPs, we need those that are in those upper levels of government to spotlight us as well. We can't do it alone. We're not hearing anything, and we need that. If we're growing to 1 million people, our province, our feds, they need to step in and help us more.
If we agree, Colleen, that we can't be all things to all people, and I think generally the community understands the incredible pressure that the regional level of government is facing right now, and the demands that are on that budget as you try to keep it manageable. But I talked about this on the show yesterday, and I certainly get frustrated, maybe more frustrated than your average bear, but I think I speak for many when I talk about things like the plan to really upgrade already existing bike lanes. Like, I don't understand why we would do that. It's not, I know, and it's not about anti-bike lane in general. I'm just saying we already have separated cycling infrastructure on King Street and on University and on Herb. Why do we need to change that in a budget time like this?
When it comes to the bike lanes, and, it's just so funny how things just kind of get thrown out there, and you're like, wait a second. I can agree. I think we are working on kind of that active transportation. Municipalities are as well. Sometimes we need to just think about, okay, does this make the most sense right now? And I know that we are trying to get people not using their cars. The reality is our communities were designed for cars. And now we're trying to course correct. When it comes to the bike lanes, I think there are some roads that potentially, yes, we need to think about our, multi-use trails and connecting people greater and more. And in some areas, is it necessary? Is it creating more of a challenge for navigating? The whole bike lane thing, I really wish they'd focus on getting us more transit and investment in infrastructure than focusing on something like that, to be honest with you. There's money needed and help needed in other ways. But I think with the region's perspective, looking at things from a multi-use trail perspective, it seems appropriate to continue. Really, I think some things... Send us the money and provide solutions for the societal challenge that we're navigating. I'm not hearing that.
I think you and I are of like mind when it comes to transit and where we might be able to improve there. And I know you championed a late night bus route in Waterloo. So we'll talk about that. And I know the police budget is something that we need to dive into too. So hang on with me if you can, Colleen. We're going to take a break and continue this, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Colleen James is a regional councillor representing Kitchener. Joins us this morning on Council Chambers. Transit, police budget, just tiny issues that we'll continue discussing here on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Friday mornings, 10 a.m., a segment we call Council Chambers, encouraged by you. You asked us to give you more information about what's going on in municipalities, in neighborhoods in this community. So we bring on one of our municipal councillors every Friday morning at 10. Today, that councillor is Colleen James. She represents Kitchener on Regional Council. Let's talk first, before we get to the police budget, Colleen, about transit. You mentioned it earlier, and I think we agree. There is ample opportunity, I believe, for improvements to transit, not just that late night route you had brought back onto the schedule in Waterloo. Yeah,
there's, people are asking for more frequent, not having to wait a half an hour between or, getting to that 10, 15 minutes between. Even the routes. Look, we have areas that are transportation deserts, and as we're growing and as cities are, approving developments, I'm thinking about kind of that far out south end of Kitchener. I'm thinking, Tressler along there, Waterloo. You think about the townships. Like there's a need to improve our service throughout. The night loop it was kind of an easy one because it existed before. So it made it a little easier. But when we think about expanding routes, then you're looking at operations, you're looking at all of that needs to go to support that. And we know I think that's a more practical investment for the growth of the region.
When you look at the police budget, it's the largest line item within that regional budget overall. I know your colleague, another councillor on Regional Council who represents Kitchener, Rob Deutschman, has been concerned with the additions in that budget for new hires that have not yet been brought into the police service. They have not yet been hired. Where do you land on where we're at with the police budget?
So the one thing, and I think this was raised by Mayor Verbanovic, was around that communication center. That's a big ticket item. Is it necessary right now? I've, continuously seen over the years the budget increase we need, I think we're not exempt here. There are many police services across the province that need more. I can hear it from the community too. They're saying some say they need more officers, given, escalation and the seriousness of various things happening. As we're trying to cut our staff, we need to think about how are we phasing this in a way that makes sense, that's tangible for taxpayers in this region. So I think there'll always be a necessary kind of critique if we're seeing continuous increases year after year. But we really have to think about what is realistic. And that's what it comes down to for me. What is realistic? Where is there opportunities to just kind of say, hold on a second? If you're not getting these officers right now, is it necessary to be paying in advance for them? And I know there's narratives back and forth around the math around that, but some of the things I think about in particular is around that millions of dollars communications advancement that they're trying to do. Is it necessary right now? Where can we pause for a second and just think, it's not even us at the council table, again, it's the taxpayers.
I think it's a fair point to raise. It's $170 million for a new communication center, which reminds me, on a probably larger scale than upgrading, bike lanes that already exist. Is what we have good enough for now? Can it last us longer instead of adding that big ticket item to the budget this year?
Yeah, and I mean, people will say too, well, the cost will go up year after year. Right now, I think there's some relief that's needed. There are really people who are just hanging by, and we are talking about the people who are working, but costs are going up. And I know in one of your ads, there's, employers are freezing, staff and hiring, and that has an impact on overall economy overall right now for this region.
Well, since you bring that up, one of the other issues that's on the table at the region is 170 new staffing positions. Do you feel that's something that we can absorb?
Oh, I think, the sad reality is we cannot hire that many right now. I just think, and this is one of the if you've been listening, one of kind of the debates around the table is, what is necessary? I know I've been kind of pushing for what are things that do not fall on the tax levy? What are things that are legislative? They're tied to, be it water, be it, thinking about waste where we need to have, make sure that there's quality and we're meeting standards and they're not so much based on the tax levy or positions that are funded by federal or provincial funding. It's not realistic at this point to say, okay, let's hire on 170, and dare I correct you, I think it's 190, Mike. It's just not realistic. But again, these are staff who are looking into their areas and saying kind of where they're doing their job too, and again, if we're asked to do more and then do it with less, are we really delivering the quality that is expected of us as a region? So the staffing, I think, is a valid discussion piece. And, look, at where we are right now, it's probably not going to be where we end up. Most likely it's not going to be where we end up. It's just, what are we willing to cut back on and know that may come in service reductions in some areas.
Are you comfortable with $500 million in additional debt to build affordable housing?
Absolutely not. That is scary to me, and it's not even scary for me right now, but I think about future decision making and putting that on. I mean, council's been dealing with this now. There's been decisions made in the past that I think, that we're having to navigate, and it's having an impact on our tax levy. I don't think that, I'm not a proponent of debt financing at all, but $500 million. Oh no, I think all of us were looking at that like, there's no way.
I have to think, Colleen, this is one of those areas, though, where a new deal with the provincial government could help a lot, because social housing is something that's on the backs of municipalities here in Ontario. That's not the case in any other jurisdiction in Canada.
No, No, and we shouldn't be fronting the bill for this. And so I guess one of the things, and for your listeners, and I know you stay well informed as well, is do we have to say stop? We're not going to do this. It's not part of our jurisdiction. Scale back. Not to say there shouldn't be some investment. I think we all can empathize with the needs of those in community, but. Is there a point where we have to come and say, we are not responsible for this, we need help, and we can't fund it? And this is one of the things I think us as a council and community has to reckon with. We're not supposed to be doing this. Other provinces across the country, they are fronting the bill for some of these social services that, regionally we shouldn't be. And I think it goes across this province as well.
So we've gotten into some of the nitty-gritty of the budget here, Colleen, but overall, what Council is looking at attempting to do is bring that levy down from around 12% to around 8%. How confident are you that you can find that much in the way of savings?
So, Mike, it absolutely can be done, but at a cost. At a cost. If we were to keep things kind of status quo, I think it would still be over 8%. What we have to look at is if we're going to reduce it to 8 or under, that means that some of the things that people may be used to now or have been for many years, that's going to stop. And if community's okay with that, then it's a decision we have to really think hard and about at that table, because we can absolutely do it. We can absolutely do it. But that means things are going to have to stop. And the other part of this is that means jobs may be reduced. And that has an impact on the economy as well.
For sure. I appreciate you telling it like it is, because we need to hear these things and understand better. Colleen, thanks for being with us on the show this morning.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to be on. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Colleen James, Regional Councillor representing Kitchener, joining us on Council Chambers this morning. Every Friday morning at 10, right here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Came into town as a man of renown, a writer of songs about freedom and joy. The hall had been rented and I was presented as a kind of a singer that all could enjoy.
It is an all-request Friday here on the show, as it is every Friday. And Paul, as he so often does, wanted to hear some Canadian content. It's the rock and roll song by somebody who definitely does not sing rock and roll. But I will admit, I got a soft spot for Valdy. And there he is on your all-request Friday here on the show. Fridays are game days as well. Rangers home tonight to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Head coach UC Ahokas joins us for the Coaches Show next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. That is the sound you hear every time the Kitchener Rangers score a goal. They've been doing that with some frequency of late. And last Sunday, in their latest win, their 9th in a row over the Saginaw Spirit, it looked early on like we're going to get a lot of goals in the game. Kitchener jumping out to a 3-1 first period lead before things settled down a little bit from there. Every Friday morning at this time, we're joined by the head coach of the Kitchener Rangers, UC Ahokas, for the Coaches Show. Good morning, UC.
Good morning.
Tonight is the annual Remembrance Day game at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. The team always does such a great job with the jerseys and everything else. What does Remembrance Day mean to you?
Well, as a Finn, not really. We don't spend it, and we don't. It's different. Of course, we have different dates in there, so it's not a big thing. But I understand what it's for Canadians. It's a huge thing, and it's great that as a team we always do. We remember it, and we do great jerseys for that. And all in all, I think it's a great tradition.
Speaking of the team and what it does together, you look back over a 9-game winning streak like this, and it really is that team-first approach that has helped you to this point, isn't it, UC, where everybody is just understanding their role and going out and executing that role game in and game out?
Well, that's the only way if we want to keep winning or do good. That's the only way, and I think in any league that is so. You can win, of course, with talent, but you won't win anything big, and you won't do good if the boys don't buy in. And all in all, you have to put team first.
It looked last Sunday like we were going to be in a bit of a shootout for a while with Saginaw. 3 goals in the first period for your team, up 3-1, but things seemed to settle down from there. What changed and allowed you to contain the offense of Saginaw?
I think first period we scored really well. We were bad at the first period. Like their forecheck, and we weren't breaking out the pucks like we wanted. And they actually played well, but after that, I think we the game settled. But we played also way smarter, and when you get that 3-1 lead, we played smart hockey when we were leading. And Saginaw's a good team, and I thought we did a good job after the first period how we played.
You got a great goaltending performance on Sunday from Jackson Parsons. How important has goaltending been to this 9-game winning streak?
Of course, you need that. Always, you need good goaltending if you want to win games. That's in any league. That's so. It's so your goalie is your most important player. If you don't have good goaltending, you're not winning hockey games. So yeah, it's been good, but it's good. We've had young boy Schabel playing well also, and Paris, I think he's starting to get his game in, and he's been playing it better and better. So yeah, really happy for him.
This winning streak has been going on for a while now. Does anybody talk about it? Do you have to keep the players from thinking about that and get them to focus on something else?
No, we're not talking about it. It's not. You have to win games to get in playoffs, and we have to get better every day. And it doesn't really. It's not a thing for us. Of course, we want to win always. That's for sure. But we haven't been talking about it at all. So it's a new game, and we lost last time to Sioux. So it's a good challenge for our boys.
That's a good reminder. In fact, the last time you lost a game, it was in a shootout. You still got a point. But is there, a reason now to show this Sioux team that, what this Rangers team really is all about?
Well, yeah, and we have to remember they've got guys back from the NHL, so they have even a better lineup today. But all in all, we have to be better in our offense, and we have to be hungrier getting pucks to the net, and all in all, our scoring has to be better what it was last time in Sioux, and we have to manage the puck well against them.
The Sioux have been playing better hockey, too, since you were up there and they beat you in a shootout. What makes them a dangerous team?
Oh, they're a stretch team. They transition. They've been good. Their PK's been good. All in all, now when they got those few guys back, they have their lineup is good. It's all in all, it's a well-coached hockey club. So it's you have to be aware of them. But if you about their offense, and if you're smart with the puck, usually do well against them.
Your team, UC, finally got some recognition in the CHL top 10. How does that feel?
I don't really feel anything about it. So, what were we? I don't know. It doesn't matter to me.
I knew you were going to say that to me, Coach. Yeah. I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Always good to talk to you. Good luck at the game tonight, and we'll see you at the rink.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, UC.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
UC Ahokas, the head coach of the Kitchener Rangers, he doesn't even know that the Rangers were ranked 7th in the CHL top 10 this week. I'm going to say this again. I feel like I say it every Friday morning at this time. I love that guy. I love that guy's approach to this game. I really do. He is focused on what lies ahead immediately. Not tomorrow, not later in the week, not on November the 19th. That's when the Rangers play the London Knights. UC Ahokas is laser focused on the game tonight at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. And I'll tell you what, you can call me biased because I probably am, but if you want to see some hockey that is well played the right way, as we observers like to say. I've observed a few games over the years, and this Rangers team plays the game the right way. They're a lot of fun to watch, and UC is also right when he talks about how well coached the Sioux Greyhounds are. It's going to be a good game tonight. Brady Martin, good old Elmira boy, coming into town with the Greyhounds, and if you can't make it to the Memorial Auditorium, I hope you can, first and foremost, because it's a big night with Remembrance Day, the ceremony, and all of that good stuff. But if you can't, I promise you, we have you covered right here on 570 News Radio. Paul Fixter and I are going to be at the rink. We're going to bring you all of the action. We're going to describe everything that's going on inside that building. We will bring to you the pregame ceremony, which is always beautiful. It's going to sound great. It's going to look great. We'll keep you up to date on all of it. Our coverage will start with the Harris Law pregame show at 6:30, and the puck will drop not long after 7. Rangers and Greyhounds as Kitchener looks for a 10th straight win. The Coaches Show every Friday morning at this time here on our show, and immediately following the Coaches Show, the other Coaches Show. Paul Fixter, our color commentator, joins us right after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Fridays are game days in Kitchener, and we want to make sure you are ready for the Kitchener Rangers hockey game every Friday right here on your home of Rangers hockey. That is 570 News Radio, even when the team is on the road. So Friday mornings at 10:30, the Coaches Show with head coach UC Ahokas, immediately followed by the other Coaches Show. That other coach is the guy that gets stuck with me in the broadcast booth, home and away. Oh, and Fixie, just think of this as we welcome Paul Fixter to the show. Just think of how cozy we're going to be in Owen Sound tomorrow night. That's tight quarters, buddy.
It certainly is. And then we have the catwalk in Oshawa.
Don't talk about it. The number one rule of that, I get so nervous, Fixie, I don't even want to think about it yet. And actually, that's a pretty cozy booth now that I think of it, too. You and I are going to be, put on some extra deodorant, and I'll try to lose a few pounds, okay?
Mike, before you ask me a question, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you find more surprising? The fact that UC doesn't know they're the top 10, or that President Trump overwhelmingly won the presidential race?
That's an excellent question. Trump overwhelmingly. I actually, and I have the receipts to prove it. I thought Trump would win. I didn't think the margin would be that great. Holy cow, did they gum up the polling again, eh?
Yeah, no question. I just found it interesting when he said he had no idea where they were ranked.
Okay, so, and listen, I said it a moment ago. Like, I love the guy. I love his approach. He's no nonsense. Do you really think he doesn't know?
He knows.
Yeah, okay. But this is all part of the coach's mentality, isn't it?
No question. And it's the focus on the present. Like, tonight is about Sault Ste. Marie, and he doesn't care that, they're top 10. It's just about focusing on the president, and they're very, very good at that. The entire coaching staff, the entire organization, and fitting in your role and taking care of business on a day-to-day basis. And he stresses all the time about getting better. He says they still do some dumb things, so they need to clean up that. All those things that he talks about all the time is about just focusing on the present. Now, that being said, Mike, they're playing a team here that has been on a good roll. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Really, their only losses have come to London. They've beaten Windsor. And since we saw them, like he didn't mention the names, but they've added from Utah, Owen Allard, Swedish forward Noel Nord, and Marco Magnoza who had been out with an illness, whatever his illness was. Those are three really big additions to this Sault Ste. Marie team that we didn't see when we were up in the Soo.
You're right. We didn't see them when we were up in the Soo, and they still got the better of us 5-4 in a shootout on that night, the last time the Rangers lost the game. At this level, Fixie, because you've coached here as well as other levels, but particularly at the junior level, how difficult is it to keep the players focused on this game tonight when they know that they're in the top 10, when they know that they've won 9 in a row and everybody's talking about them? How difficult is it to keep that focus?
I think it is difficult, Mike, and I keep referencing Ben Boudreau, the coach of the Niagara Ice Dogs, when we played them a couple of weeks ago, when I asked him that question, and he said, yes, I'm having a hard time keeping the players' heads able to fit into their helmets. That's how big their heads were getting. It is something that you have to remind the players that, you lose two this weekend, you're probably out of the top 10. So you want to stay in there, you have to keep winning. And the only way to keep winning is to stay focused on the task at hand. And the other thing I think the coaching staff really has going for, Mike, is this internal competition for jobs as these players start to get closer to being healthy and the depth chart lengthens. You're in the lineup, you want to stay in the lineup. The only way to stay in the lineup is do what the team is asking of you.
It's a great point, and getting 2 wins on a weekend like this won't be easy. Soo tonight, we've already talked about how well they've been playing of late. Oshawa on Sunday, and that catwalk that you reminded me of. But Oshawa is one of the beasts in the East, and then it's up to the Bayshore and Owen Sound tomorrow night. So a busy weekend ahead for the Kitchener Rangers. You talk about the depth chart, and like a dummy, I forgot to ask you, Ahokas, about getting healthier, because it sounds like Cameron Arquette is ready to be back in the lineup tonight. So I guess that's fine, so to speak, because the Rangers have been playing with 11 forwards, but you still have Avery Anstis, Evan Hedrick, and Matthias Stark waiting in the wings for their opportunity to come back into this lineup.
Yeah, and I would think the next closest to that would be Matthias Stark would be getting awfully close to coming back. So, if one goes in, one has to come out. Who is it? It's tough to tinker with a lineup that has won 9 in a row and points in 14 straight. How do you mess with that chemistry? But they'll find a way to figure out to get these guys ice time. It's not easy, though. Those are tough. Those are difficult decisions, no question about it. Those are the things that keep you up at night.
And I'm sure you don't miss making those decisions.
No, I don't. You know what, though, Mike? The more I'm being around the rink and hanging with you, and I do miss the competitiveness of, trying to make a team win and all those things. I really do miss that part of it because I am such a competitive guy still. I miss that part, but I'm just competing now. I'm trying to keep up with you and bring my A game each and every night. Well,
if you want to start competitions with Jerry Liscombe Jr. and Sault Ste. Marie, like he'll be in the visiting press box tonight. We can start a little rivalry if you want. Well, there's lots of room for that. I wanted to, you said something, bring in your A game. And I wanted to mention this today because I want folks to understand what they're going to be privileged to hear on our broadcasts in the days and weeks ahead. You Fixie, have gone, like, I don't know if all you Stanley Cup champs just kind of hang out together or you have each other on a text message group chat or something, but especially with Remembrance Day, the Remembrance Day game tonight. But can you just give folks a little idea of I don't even know if A-list describes it, but the guests that you have secured to be part of our intermissions this weekend and beyond?
Well, I think with Remembrance Day coming on Monday, Mike, it was important to bring that into it. And Mark Napier, Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, his son is active. And so we're going to have Mark on and talk about his son who's in the military, talk about Mark's tours over in Afghanistan with the NHL alumni. Very interesting. I've been talking with him this week, and he's excited. And we won't have to ask a lot of questions because Mark is a talker. He'll tell stories. And then I think there's a really good book out right now written by Mike Keenan called Iron Mike. And we're fortunate, Mike, you and I, we're going to be able to do an interview with Mike, talk about his book, talk about his career, just talk about things. And I think it's really interesting to have these two people on. Like they're just very influential people in the game of hockey.
Former head coach of the Peterborough Petes, Mike Keenan, and Mark Napier, whose son continues to serve in the military. Just a little glimpse of what we get. You talk about bringing your A game, Fixie. You're putting me to shame here with what you're bringing to the broadcast, and we love it. We love it.
Well, it's all in terms of making the viewers happy with what they're hearing, Mike.
And that's what we're going to do all weekend long. Tonight at home to the Sioux, tomorrow night in Owen Sound, and on Sunday in Oshawa. Fixie, I'll see you later this afternoon, and we'll get ready for the big game tonight.
Sounds good, Mike.
Thanks, pal.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Paul Fixter is our color commentator on Kitchener Rangers hockey, and he brings us the likes of two-time Stanley Cup champion Mark Napier. Oh, yeah, another Stanley Cup champion in Mike Keenan. They will both be guests on our intermissions this weekend and beyond. The kind of stuff that Fixie brings to our Kitchener Rangers coverage here on 570 News Radio. And you're listening to the Mike Farwell Show there and watching on Rogers TV. Every Friday from 11 until noon, it is tradition on this show to invite some guests to join us and dissect and discuss the week's big stories. Trump 2.0 and children under 16 being banned from social media. We'll talk about it with our Friday 4 guests right after this update from the 570 News Center. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It's an all-request Friday here on the show. Andre wanted to hear a little bit of the headpins and just one more time. Yeah, we're a talk show, but we love our music too, and we give you a chance to hear a little bit of a song that you're interested in hearing every Friday, all-request Friday. The headpins, by the way, along with April Wine, opening for Bachman Turner Overdrive at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium in April. Ooh, yeah. You can get tickets as of right now. They went on sale this morning. We were able to give tickets away on the show yesterday and loved doing it. A little bit of the headpins here on All Request Friday on the show. All right. It is our Friday 4 roundtable as we welcome guests into the studio to talk about the week's big stories. Very pleased to be seeing virtually on my computer screen here with our Zoom call, Linda Ockwell-Jenner, who's the president of motivationalsteps.com. Linda, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am top shelf. How are you?
Wishing I was still on my cruise.
Well, I'm glad you.
Why I wasn't here.
I don't blame you. I'm glad you're here.
It's lovely to be back and see you all.
David Kuhn is with us as well. He's the former board chair at KW Accessibility. Mr. Kuhn, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Always great to have you. And Steve Bentley is with us as well, managing principal, Northern River Financial. Good morning, Bentley.
How you doing, Farwell?
Not as well as you. Those pictures from up Algonquin Way, come on with your coming on, Bentley.
Well, I came back from a photography conference at the beginning of the week. I'm heading back up there for 3 days next week. And it's a busy time of year. We like to get out, and there's certain animals that are quite easy to identify and find at this time of year. So
it's beautiful. It's
I
beautiful.
The Rangers were in Sudbury. I thought the Rangers were in Sudbury. I saw somebody post a picture of a bus. Maybe it was a different picture. But
must have been a different picture. We
go to here, so
that's
not.
Right. We go to Sudbury just after Christmas. So not as Sue's coming in tonight. That's what's happening.
Something must have been wrong. Okay.
It happens. Not on this radio station. It doesn't happen, but other people can be wrong sometimes. All right. Let's talk about, without question, the biggest story, not just in our news cycle, but quite frankly, the biggest story on the planet this week, and that is the re-election of one Donald J. Trump. Runs and wins over Hillary Clinton in 2016. Runs and loses, although not gracefully, to Joe Biden in 2020. And runs again and wins over Kamala Harris this week. It is Trump 2.0. The first U.S. president to do this, by the way, win back his seat in the White House since 1892. Linda, I'll start with you on this. How do you feel about Trump 2.0?
Who is he again? I've never heard of the guy. Well, his head will be even bigger than it was before. He's also got another crown to wear, the first convicted felon to be the president of the United States. So I hope he wears that badge well. We have to accept it. And I was saying to my husband, Dave, I don't like Trump, but the American people have voted and they say that he did help the economy and some other things when he was in power last time. And I hate to say this, the things I've seen him saying lately, he's talking a bit more sensible. I hope. And my girl, the still vice president, as I like to call her, my girl, she wants to work with him. So if he accepts the help and he doesn't end up being, insert whatever word you like, basically I think it will be okay. I do wonder though, a lot of people have been saying that this is a racist thing because of where the vice president, was born and what she looks like and everything. Others are saying it's because she's a woman. I don't know. I really don't know because I didn't vote for anybody, but we've just got to accept it now, guys, and put up with it.
It's an interesting point on whether or not, I guess not in 2016 and maybe not in 2024, are Americans ready for a female president? Perhaps not. David Kuhn, I'll swing it over to you. Initial thoughts on Trump 2.0.
I was saying before we started that we could probably talk about this for the whole show.
Yeah.
I will say that I kind of liked Trump, the reality star. Trump, the president, not so much. But as Linda said, and as I've said, and I'm sure lots of people have said over the last few days, Americans made their choice. They have to live with it, and as Canadians, we have to live with it. And yes, there will be wide-ranging impacts, domestically in the U.S., internationally, and here in Canada, and we have to roll with it. But here's the thing. Regardless of who was elected, if it was Vice President Harris, there would have been impacts to her presidency as well. And I think when people talk about politics, it's always, very partisan, and people like to say, well, I like this person because, and I like that person because, and I get that. But Canadians, whether they are more liberal or more conservative or whatever they want to call themselves, I don't think we can look at U.S. politics through Canadian partisan lens, because again, there are so many impacts, regardless of who gets in, on Canada, good and bad. So I think what happens remains to be seen. And, it'll be a long 4 years. And will there be more polarization? For sure. There will be. But again, like I said, we just have to roll with it.
Steve Bentley, your thoughts. Trump 2.0.
Oh, do we have to say that word again? I just think that there's a couple things. I think, first of all, Americans voted, and they voted Trump in as president. There's still some concession to be made. The House still hasn't been, I think, formally resolved yet. And a couple of states are still, I think Arizona and Nevada, if I'm wrong, are still finalizing their counts. But I think part of the problem is the Democratic Party put themselves in a difficult position when Joe Biden decided to run for a second term. He's having trouble finishing the first term. So that put them really in a backseat with this whole election, because 3.5 months ago, they finally conceded that he needed to step down, and Kamala stepped in to, run as president. She had 3.5 months to take that reign, and she did her best. And you got to remember, the election was close, but there's no ambiguity here. The electoral college votes are there, and the popular vote is there for Trump. I like the person he has decided to make his chief of staff. She has a lot of experience. She seems to be level-headed. I hope she can keep him in check. in terms of some of his verbal outages. We'll see. I think we have to give him some time. Am I a Trump supporter? Absolutely not. And I just think that he, again, tapped into something that American people are angry. The American people are upset. They've got some very specific issues they have. And he dialed right into that. And he kept a fairly low key profile. I mean, remember all of the rallies that he had that were published, and you could see them on CNN, you can see them everywhere. Not to say he didn't go out and speak as much, but he didn't. But we didn't hear as much of it. We didn't hear as much of the rhetoric. And so I look back at his first presidency, his term, and I said, you know what? He came in, like a bull in a china shop, but that quickly died down. And I don't think the world leaders have a lot of time for him. Although Zelensky has said he hopes that his approach through strength through peace will actually try and bring a shorter end to the war in Ukraine, although I don't think he can do it in 24 hours. So I think what I like about Kamala's speech as well is she made a point that everything will be they're going to concede, they're going to transition power, unlike what happened when Mr. Biden became president and took over. So they're showing class, there's strength there, but I think the Democratic Party needs to really seriously look at the party, looks at, how they approach things. They need fresh leadership. Kamala has now got some experience in that role. But finally, somebody said to me, and I think it was you, Americans voted out a government. They didn't vote in a government. And I think that pretty much sums up what happened.
Yeah, and I think that happens traditionally here in Canada as well. I will bet you that Pierre Poilievre wishes we could have had an election in Canada on Wednesday, immediately after Trump's re-election win in the United States. As David Kuhn mentioned a moment ago, we could probably spend the full hour on this. We will spend another segment on it because there's lots here, and maybe in the self-reflection for Democrats. And here in Canada, I think there are parallels to be drawn between what happened to the Democrats in the States and what might be happening to Justin Trudeau and the Liberals here in Canada. So we'll continue with our Friday 4 roundtable on Trump 2.0. Stay with us. It's the Mike Farwell Show with Steve Bentley, Linda Ockwell-Jenner, and David Kuhn. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Today is the day that Led Zeppelin 4, the band's 4th studio album, was released. We started the show with a little bit of rock and roll, the name of the song from Led Zeppelin 4. This one comes from their 6th album, and I guess by then they gave up numbering them. 1, 2, 3, 4. It stopped at 4. The 6th album was called Physical Graffiti, and this song, Kashmir, came from that album. It's by request on this All Request Friday for Marianne here on the show. Fridays also mean our Friday 4 roundtable, and with us on the roundtable this morning, David Kuhn, Steve Bentley, and Linda Ockwell-Jenner. David, let me come back to you on this as we continue the dissection of Donald Trump's re-election victory on Tuesday night. How do you suppose this happened? I mean, Linda mentioned earlier, convicted felon. We all knew that. The man's character, I don't think there's much argument, is failing at best. How does this happen?
I'm going to go back to something Steve said about, I think Democrats really need to look at what they're offering to their, to the electorate in the United States. And clearly people are unhappy. It's easy to paint Americans and say, well, Trump won and, he did better than a lot of people expected. He probably did better than he expected. So therefore, Americans are, the backwards and whatever. I don't think the majority of people agree with everything that Trump says or certainly what he does. But I think they're unhappy with what the Democrats were offering, and I think that's where they're at right now. So over the next 4 years, I think they've got a really good opportunity to kind of rethink and rebrand a little bit and start listening to, what the American people are telling them.
I could not agree more with that. And the issues really seemed to be the economy, and immigration, and I didn't hear a lot from Kamala Harris on that front. Steve, thoughts?
I think that's a very important point, is we didn't hear a lot about what the Democrats and Kamala had planned to do if elected. And she kept drawing back to what Biden had done, that she was in agreement with it. And that she's been asked many times, what are you going to do different? And she really didn't have a very strong answer there, right? I see that prevailing in politics, though, in general. Even in Canada, you hear the Conservatives talking about, common sense, but we really don't get a lot of substance from what they would do if they became, the governing party. So I think that seems to be, and even Trump, the same thing, right? Nobody's really talking about issues. They're talking about what they will do. They're talking about the mood of the country. They're talking about what the other party is doing wrong. And I think Americans, or Canadians too, are getting tired of just hearing rhetoric and not hearing substance. And that just leads to a lack of confidence and a lack of trust in elected officials. So now, that said, Kamala, again, didn't have a really long period of time to ramp up to maybe where she wanted to be when she was in the election. She had to grab the reins while she had them, and off she went, right? And that was, think about it, I don't know how much she would have in terms of advanced knowledge that Biden provided in terms of stepping aside and putting her into that, presidency role for the election. So I don't know that it was fair to her. But again, I come back to the party, the Democratic Party, and what they did and how they did it. And there's a lot of work that has to happen there. And you talk about infighting in the Republicans. The Republicans are just riding on Trump's coattail, right? They're afraid to say boo, right? What he says, what he does, they're going to get elected. So that's the train they decide to hop on. I think there's a lot of things that come out of this.
There's some self-reflection for sure. I think your point on Biden not stepping away sooner is underappreciated in all of this. He could have done it back in April of 2023 and given Kamala or somebody else a whole lot more runway. Linda, let's bring it over to you. How did this happen? How did Donald Trump win re-election?
This is going to sound brutal because I'm going to bring Canada into this. There's a lot of talk now about immigrants, even people who shouldn't be in the country legally. I don't know whether that's here, but I know it's in America. And what I'm afraid about is basically that Canada used to be wanting more people to live here, wanting more people to work here. In America, it's even worse because what Trump's going to do, I hate saying his name. Anyhow, what he's going to do is going to split up families. He's going to spend billions of dollars sending people who, evidently, I'm not very good at this mathlarky, but it said on the TV yesterday, illegal immigrants actually work in America and pay taxes. I know how that works. And I think it was 5% that they will lose 5% of the workforce if they're all thrown out the country. And I think that's a lot. I'm not good at this mathlarky. I'm not a politician. But the point is this: if illegal immigrants are not, bad guys shooting people, killing people, doing all the nasty, nasty stuff, and they're leading a good life and they've got children there, they should not be thrown out. And why I'm worried about Canada, we're now blaming immigrants and students for lack of housing, for this, for that, for the other. So I think we've got to be very, very careful because we may turn into one of these places elsewhere where we are unfriendly. America is already a bit unfriendly. So I think we in Canada have to revisit the problem about the immigrants and think we want to be fair to everybody. But Trump, he got him because he did promise a lot of things that the people in America wanted. The majority of people want the illegal immigrants out. They want the economy to get better. And I agree with Steve and David in the sense that basically Kamala didn't have enough time to do all this. She had to kind of try and focus on the softer, nicer side of bring the country together, make it a free America again. So I think it was unfair to her, but let's see what Trump is going to do.
He has said a promise made is a promise kept. He's going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours after he assumes office, and he's going to send all of Joe Biden's illegal immigrants out of the country, all on his first day. It's a busy first day. Our Friday 4 Roundtable on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. With us on the roundtable today, David Kuhn, Steve Bentley, and Linda Ockwell-Jenner. We've dissected Trump 2.0. Now we're going to get into social media for youngins and those ding-dang fireworks as our Friday 4 Roundtable continues. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I know that my Friday 4 panel agrees with me. Years went by as we were waiting for the hook there. Phil from Stratford with his song request as years go by. Mash McCann on your All Request Friday here on the Mike Farwell Show. When you call in, ask Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass, to play a bit of your favorite song, or send me an email, as Phil from Stratford did, to Mike at 570news.com. We'll play a little bit of your favorite song, even if it's terrible. It's not, actually, I love the song. I really do. It just took a while to get to the meat of the serving there. All right, our Friday 4 Roundtable this morning. Steve Bentley, Managing Principal with Northern River Financial, Linda Ockwell-Jenner, the President at motivationalsteps.com, and David Kuhn, who's the former board chair at KW Access Ability. I don't know why. I mean, I was reluctant truly to put this particular topic on the show today because I've truly just thrown my hands in the air. Like, I completely give up on fireworks. But I'll tell you what, there was some social media last week when Diwali rolled around. People were calling this show to complain about what was going on in their neighborhood, and police received more than 350 complaints. This is bogging down a call center whose job it is not to deal with fireworks complaints. But Steve, I'll start with you. Do you have an answer here? I mean, because I honestly, I don't mean to be defeatist, but I quit on this one. What do you think about fireworks?
That's such a hard thing. I think, like you said, in 4 days, 362 bylaw calls related to fireworks. And I think what you see a lot on social media too is the total ignorance and the total lack of respect for the rules that are in place. And you see parts of the city where there's just fireworks debris just scattered all over the place. And I feel sorry. I mean, where I live, I look at the window and say, what event is it that we have fireworks, right? Yes, we had Diwali, and they have the ability and the right to, at this current point with current bylaws, to celebrate. But there are conditions on that. And let's not just label this particular event. I think there's a lot of times when we can have fireworks. People don't pay attention to the rules. They don't pay attention. They just want to have fireworks. They shoot them off. But we go back just a little while when there was fireworks being released in Victoria Park, and they were aimed at people, and people were injured. I believe there was a councillor that was injured as a result. So there's a complete lack of respect for having any kind of consideration for the people around you. Sure, there are reasons why we shouldn't be, as a wildlife advocate, I'm concerned about, fireworks and the effect on wildlife, and people will argue about their pets, and there's people from other parts of the world where they live in a very difficult time with if you want, war, violence, and they come here for peace, and they are listening to that kind of thing, and it just psychologically takes them to a place where they don't want to be. I think we need to have set rules. I think we need to have very specific times of the year when we can do it, and the problem is we can do that, but then we put the reliability on the police force to be able to enforce that, and it's almost impossible. It really is. There's no way they can respond. You're just this one example, 362 calls. You can't respond to every single call, right? And sometimes by the time you get there, there's not much they can do. They can give a warning. So what is the enforcement ability, right? It's great to have rules, but and we can say this in a lot of different areas, but how do we enforce them? What are the penalties? What are the fines? So I think we got to just bar down, even if it's maybe just city provided fireworks and city firework events and stuff, and get away from the personal ability for people to do it through their own backyards.
I think you might be onto something there, Steve. I'm not sure. I believe that much like alcohol and cigarettes, which teens can still get their hands on even though they're not supposed to. And I'm not blaming teens for this, but the bottom line is, well, and I'll add pesticides then. How many friends do you know go to Quebec or go to the States to bring their quote-unquote illegal pesticides back to Ontario, right? So there's always a way to get one's hands on something if they want to. You do raise an interesting point, though, around what we saw on both Victoria Day and Canada Day at Victoria Park and fireworks being shot at people. That didn't happen this time, so maybe there's a plus and we're moving in the right direction. I don't know. Linda, what do you say about this?
So it didn't happen like July the 2nd, 2024. I think, is that what you were talking about, Steve? Because there was even a baby stroller involved. And then there was a group fight.
Under a baby stroller. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So they shut down the park. So ever since I've lived in Canada, I've said the same thing. And I love the police and I love the council. I love the bylaws. I love everybody, as you know. But bylaws cannot be policed by the bylaw officers because they haven't got a lot of bylaw officers. And also, it's only if somebody complains. So my cat, Ella, is a strange cat. She's 4. She loved the fireworks from the window. She did. But I woke up in bed and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was like a bomb going off. It really was. It scared me. And I looked into the back garden because I thought, is he going to set the house on fire? So, Steve, you mentioned people from other countries living there who have to put up with bombs and people shooting each other, in war. Then they come here and there's all these fireworks. Heaven knows what it does to their mental state. But from my perspective, grew up in England. When I was a little girl, we could have bonfires and we could set fireworks off in our garden, and then it got to where people said, well, let's just have one in a park where the park authorities do the bonfire and the fireworks. But I have been in England, not recently, but maybe 10 years ago, where kids were messing around with fireworks. It was kids in that case. This is the deal. If you're going to make a bylaw and if the police are responsible for something and if rules are in place, the community, the police, the bylaw people, the council, everybody has to get together and find out how we can make this work. Stop selling fireworks on the side of the street. Stop selling fireworks in stores. Only let the organised people do the fireworks. Yes, they'll get them black market, obviously, but then you can nab them. Now, I sometimes want to phone up and say, why the fireworks when they shouldn't be? But I know it's not worth it because by the time they get here, they can't find the people. So this is a solution where we all have to work together and tell the police, the bylaw, the council what we would like to happen, So I think it's getting dangerous though when people are getting hurt and innocent people are thinking what the goodness is going on. It's not good.
And it's happening in the street now, which is the strangest part, instead of in one's yard, for example. David Kuhn, your thoughts on how we fix a problem like fireworks?
So I was actually one of those 360 plus complaints. So Saturday night, I saw people lighting off fireworks in the parking lot and really close to cars. And they were coming down onto cars. So I called the non-emergency line and the police, and they said they would, relay it to bylaw. I don't know if bylaw ended up going. I think probably by the time they did, the people would have been long gone. But I'm not going to say much different from what Steve said. I think it comes down to, a mix of regulation, education, and alternatives. I think that's what we need to look for. Maybe instead of, maybe we need the city to have sanctioned events, controlled events that people decide they want to go to. But I think, whatever we do, people are still going to do something contrary. I also think part of the problem is every city has a different bylaw. So again, as we've talked about a lot on this show, we have 3 cities, 4 townships, and the region, and every individual municipality has its own bylaws and own rules around certain things. So, I think we need uniformity around things like this, because I think some of the confusion was Cambridge's bylaw is different than Kitchener's. And, I don't know where Kitchener's bylaw is in relation to the city of Waterloo. But again, there needs to be uniformity and there needs to be more education and more awareness given. Like the idea that people are in parking lots, shooting off fireworks, hitting cars, going after people, Councillor, it was Julie Wright from the city of Waterloo that got the fireworks shot at her. That stuff is not right. But the fact that we have to tell people not to do that, like that's not right either. We shouldn't have to. That should be common sense. But I think education, regulation, there's a lot to do. I don't know that we're going to solve the problem, but that doesn't mean we don't try.
I think you make an excellent point around the different rules for different municipalities, because Waterloo was also different from Kitchener in all of this. And you're right. I mean, I worry about how much education we need if lighting things on fire near gasoline-powered automobiles is not understood to be dangerous across the board. But maybe that's just me sitting here in the cozy confines of my studio on the boardwalk. All right, we'll take a break and come back with more our Friday 4 Roundtable. David Kuhn, Steve Bentley, Linda Ockwell-Jenner. What do we think of Australia's idea? A social media ban for youth under the age of 16. We'll talk about it as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I think that Dean and I could be best friends. His request on All Request Friday here on the show this morning is the Ramones. Love me some Ramones. And Danny says, by request from Dean, on your All Request Friday here on the program. Fridays also mean our Friday 4 Roundtable, where we invite some guests to join us on the show to reflect on the week's big stories. Linda Ockwell-Jenner, David Kuhn, and Steve Bentley with us this morning. Final topic for us to tackle comes from the other side of the world. We're going to Australia, where Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said yesterday the government would legislate for a ban on social media for children under the age of 16. I think this might have universal application, Linda. What do you think of the idea? No social media for kids.
You're starting with me.
I am.
Well, I decided to go to France for some information, even though it's Australia who's doing this. So what they think is keeping young people safe online is a top priority, okay? But basically what we're talking about at the minute, teenagers to access digital platforms in the 20th century is a response to 21st century challenges. This was a while ago. Managing Director Sumita Bose said that. So rather than blocking access through bans, we need to take a balanced approach to create age-appropriate spaces, okay? Build digital literacy and protect young people from online harm. But last year, France proposed a ban on social media for those under 15. Though users were able to avoid the ban with parental consent. So there is the problem. Australia can put a ban in place, but if the parents are not willing to, make that happen in their own home. And then, if you're 16, you've got a lot of friends. So you go to their home or you go to other places where you can use social media. I don't know how they're going to implement it. It's kind of like if you guys... So we're banning TikTok for government and other kind of special people, but we're not banning it for people like us. We can use it, and stuff like that. And there's good reasons for banning it. But when you think about it, half the social media out there today is bad for kids. A lot of kids not even using the social media we know about. They don't even like Facebook anymore, right? But there's a lot of, it's true. There's a lot of things going on where kids are being bullied and they're being abused in many, many ways. So I just don't think anybody can implement it and make it work, because first of all, we need parents, caregivers, people like that to actually stand by it as well. But I think when you're 16, I don't think they're going to like anybody telling them what to do. So it's like, it's not going to work. I don't think it's going to happen in Australia, here, or anywhere.
I see your point, and I get totally where you're coming from. I think back to being a kid, and my hope would be that creating a law would kind of convince more parents to enforce such rules, because we don't drive until we're 16. We don't drink until we're 19. We always find it. My house was pretty strict, no restricted movies under the age of 18, but I could go to my buddy's place and see those movies because his parents were less strict. But I think fewer households engage in the behavior then, and maybe that would be a good thing to come of this. But David, your thoughts?
Look, I think you're right, Mike, that this could have universal, implications, applications if it happens. Look, there are a number of reasons why I think social media use or regulating social media use is probably a good idea. I mean, thinking about mental health, thinking about safety, all that stuff. And I think, it's one thing to say companies need to do this, and I agree they can put restrictions in place, but parents need to be taking a more active role in what their kids are up to. And I mean, I'm gonna pick on some people. Just in Facebook, you can set your security settings for posts on Facebook. The amount of people I see that post publicly accessible posts to everybody and have their kids listed and personal information, I look at that and I think, why do you do that? So that's on the parents, and that's on people maybe not realizing, but certainly they should. So I think, ultimately, I think the goal in Australia would be to create a safer digital environment for young people. But is it wholly going to work? I don't know, because there's always ways around it. But I do think we definitely do need to do more on education. And I think, as I've said, multiple topics, when it comes to education and kids and students, starts at home and with parents and caregivers. And, I think that's where we need to look at.
And if anybody's going to find a way around it, it will be the young people. Final couple minutes, Steve, we'll give you the last word.
We have things we want to do. We talked about fireworks and about putting rules and regulations in place, but people circumvent them. We talk about trying to create a safer environment in social media platforms, and France tried, and Australia's trying now. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada tries to make an attempt, but you can put the rules in place, but how are they enforced? How do we know they're actually working? We don't. We always have a culture where kids are going to try and find, and even parents are trying to find ways to circumvent rules, right? The thought about going to the social media platforms and talk about what kind of content they allow. Now we start to border on freedom of speech and whether that's even an appropriate thing to ask of them, right? But I think there is some responsibility there. And I would like to see an industry try and come together and say, here's how we can make our platform safer for children and respect, right?
Impossible.
The kids are always going to find a way. Parents, ultimately, to me, they are the responsibility for what their children do. So if they're accessing and doing things, accessing is one thing, but actually doing things that aren't appropriate for an online platform, and talking about what Dave just said, not even being careful about the information they put publicly and what they share about themselves. There's so many people who can fall victim to predators because of what they do share on social media. So ultimately, though, and we talk about whether schools should be involved in this process as well. They try to, in respect of certainly within the school space, in terms of trying to ban phones in classrooms and some other measures they're trying. But it's not going to be effective unless there's a way that we can enforce it. And I think when you talk about driving license, well, you need a driver's license, right? You can't get insurance. So there are things that have to be done in order to be able to drive on the road. And having to produce ID and going through a liquor store in order to buy alcohol, there are steps. Mm-hmm. How do you do that with social media? I really don't know that you can easily. And it keeps changing. That whole world keeps changing. So I think we've got to keep trying to look for solutions, but I'm not sure a ban is going to be effective.
All right. We got to run on that note. Steve Bentley, Managing Principal, Northern River Financial. Linda Ockwell-Jenner, President, MotivationalSteps.com. David Kuhn, former Board Chair, KW Accessibility. Thank you all for your time today. Enjoy the weekend ahead.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. The Mike Farwell Show Friday 4 panel has ended. And now it's time for an update from the 570 News Center. And then it's time to open the phones to hear from you. Free Phones Friday coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I gotta tell you what's going on. I have got to tell you what is going on. Earlier this week, you might remember me sharing with you, I don't know if I should do this or not, but what the hell? They gave me the microphone. I do with it as I please. So somebody somewhere internal to this wonderful company I work for, and I'm not saying that sarcastically, I really do enjoy my time with this company. They've been nothing but good to me for 17 years, and that's the God's honest truth. It's a big company, lots of people, and somewhere along the line, in the tens of thousands of people that work for us, earlier this week, somebody made a little boo-boo with an email and sent out an email to an entire list of people. I don't know where the list originates. I don't know how I'm on the list, but it's an email that came to me that clearly I have no business doing. It's not sensitive in nature or top secret or anything. It's just, I don't know how I ended up being asked the question that I have zero chance of answering. And clearly, I know this is a list because there are many, many, many people on it. And here's the thing, and I told you this earlier this week, people were replying all saying, you're not sending it to the right department. I'm not responsible for this. Can you please take me off this email list? And people were doing the whole reply all thing, which I said earlier in the week when I told you this story, and I'll tell you again. The person who invented the reply all button should be replied all on every single reply all that's ever used anywhere in the world. They should be punished for their sin of creating the button. So it seemed to have corrected itself. The I will assume lovely lady, I've never met her, but who sent the original email, apologized for it, made a mistake. Somehow, some way, it got back into the web of cyberspace today. And in the last, let me see here, it is 12:06. So in the last 16 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, and everybody keeps replying all. And my best buddy, I love it so much, Ben Ennis, I worked with him when I was at Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and he started earlier. He says, guys, please stop. I'm begging you. Now he's given up. He's replied all with, put me on all the lists, please. People are replying in all caps. Please stop replying all. How do we not understand this? Like, one of my other favorites came from somebody else I don't know, but I thought her response was excellent. Elizabeth sent a meme of Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix. What if I told you there is a reply button and you don't have to click reply all? Like, that's the... Why are we replying all? 10 people in the last 15 minutes. And it just keeps going. It is the funniest thing. Everybody wants to be removed from the list, but they're replying all to tell all of us they want to be removed from the list. Anyway, I'm sorry. I find this incredibly amusing. I just hit delete. Oh, there's another one. I just delete. I know you don't want to be on the list. We all now know you don't want to be on the list, but I hope you recognized that by hitting reply all, you're just making it worse. I am fascinated by human beings. I really am. Okay. Sorry. I just felt like sharing that. Let's get to the phones. It is your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, Free Phones Friday edition. You, human being, can fascinate me now instead of my inbox. Jersey Bill, you're going to start us off. Good afternoon.
Okay. Well, as you've
see, I have taken a few days to reflect on what's happened in the United States.
I was wondering when I was going to hear from you, Billy.
I try not to let these things affect me adversely, so I just think them through, So it is what he is. He's not going to go to trial for anything. I think that President Biden should do some sort of blanket pardon so that we don't have to live through him pardoning himself, which I think would have some bad implications to it. And he's going to get two more. I'm sure Alito and gosh, I forget the and the other Supreme Court justice who sides with him often. They're getting into their 80s. They could retire. He could have 5 people on the Supreme Court. So those are bad things that happen. I mean, the deportations and everything. That's something we'll have to see how that works out. But I have no doubt that there's going to be a political correction if he goes too far, and we'll probably wind up with the Democratic House and maybe even Senate in 2 years from now, and then we'll see where the presidential race goes.
Yeah, but what happens in the next 2 years, Billy, before that changes? I mean, the Republicans already have the Senate.
That's right. So what's going to happen is I have no doubt he's going to get his 2 more seats on the Supreme Court, and of course. If it becomes that kind of ultra-conservative Supreme Court that tries to essentially legislate from the bench, as liberal courts did for so many decades, that in itself will form a reaction. Yeah, you know what? In a way, it's not going to be the worst because the Supreme Court will be there, and it'll block out anything that the people vote for that may be a little bit too extreme or too progressive. But at the same time, when they make decisions that the base of the population disagrees with, that's just going to motivate them to go to the polls and put in power, at least in the legislative and the executive branch, people who essentially will be a counterweight to what the Supreme Court does. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court with a bunch of 40, 50, 60-year-olds will be there for decades on end. And so that's in a way it's the worst thing, but also. Each act in a republic or a democracy, each action has a reaction, and we're going to see that and how that works out.
All right, Billy, appreciate the call and appreciate the thoughts as we get Free Phones Friday underway. Email from Dawn to Mike at 570news.com. I thought it was pretty interesting. How come we're not hearing more about the many ads we're seeing and hearing from the province about what a wonderful place we have to live in? I've heard that these ads are costing over $9 million, but probably twice that amount. They should say paid for by the province of Ontario for the benefit of the Progressive Conservative Party. I'm not being biased here because Kathleen Wynne's Liberal Party did the same thing before calling an election. It just seems wrong that money like this is being spent to make the Conservatives look good when that money could be put to better use. Dawn, appreciate the email. Something else we can riff on during Free Phones Friday here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through.
Oh, Elizabeth, you have some kind of taste. As soon as Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass, and the DJ on turntables 1 and 2 in there, said that we were going to play some Vera Lynn, I knew exactly who we were playing Vera Lynn for. We are going back. Are you ready? 85 years for this one. 85 of them. Bless your heart, Elizabeth. That's not vinyl. Those were the days where if you dropped a record, it would shatter into pieces. Those suckers were heavy when you played them on the old phonograph machines. It's an All Request Friday here on the Mike Farwell Show. Whatever it is that tickles your fancy, or perhaps your eardrums in this case, go ahead and request it. We'll play a bit of it for you. Free Phones Friday, where we take your calls and your pulse, find out what's on your mind. Back to the phones. Bob, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. Yeah. The other day when you did your promotion for the BTO concert at the Odd.
Yes, sir.
I thought you did a great job. Excellent. I think that you could make that into a weekly thing or even a show, because the way you did it, it's like Name That Tune, but a different aspect. And I thought it was awesome.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and maybe you could do it maybe every other week or once a month or something, because it's kind of cool.
All right. I'll keep that in mind. I won't have tickets to give away every other week or every month, maybe. I mean, if I do, thank you. That's very kind of you. I did put some effort into that, and it's... Why is Bob noticing the effort and not my ding-dang boss? I would like to know. Just for the record, little question from yours truly. Hey, boss, did you hear what Bob just said? Bob likes the effort I'm putting in here every day. Hell's the matter with you? All right. Sorry, I just went on a little bit of a tangent there. Grant, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. So Doug Fort's responsible for the high prices of food. Is that correct?
No, it's actually not, but anyway.
He's partly responsible.
No, actually, he's not. Doug Fort has nothing to do with what you're paying at the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I wanted a food hamper, and I left their office a message that he's responsible for it being filled up so fast. It was filled up within 2 days.
The food hamper?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. This is through House of Friendship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know if I phone up, it's hard. It's next to impossible to send a message to Trudeau, because that organization never answers.
Grant, have you tried sending a message to Loblaws or Sobeys?
No.
Oh, I wonder if they've got anything to do with the price you're paying at the grocery store.
Like, I don't get out, and I like to have that food hamper, because with my income comes mid-December, and then I have to wait till the end of January until I get my next payment. I always get it the end of the month, and it might not sound that much to other people, but that's about a month and a half that you're, oh, geez, you know what? I've got to make sure there's money here, right?
You know what, Grant? You're so right. And it strikes me that today is payday for us here at the radio station. Those checks come in every 2 weeks. And thank you for the reminder, truly, that for someone who's not getting the twice per month or the biweekly paychecks from their employer, it is a stretch. And you're talking mid-December to end of January. Hello, holidays come in around that. I saw the story yesterday about the incredible demand for these emergency food hampers. Grant puts it in plain English for you. And when I saw the story yesterday, it did hit me. Like, it's one of those things where I can't build houses for people, and I can contribute to agencies that are, and hopefully longer term we get solutions to the housing crisis. But the food really hits me hard too, because nobody, look, in a nation as rich as ours, nobody should be without shelter. We know that. And certainly people should not be without food. So if you can help out in some way, maybe you're lucky like us here at the radio station and just got a paycheck today. Maybe you can contribute to that emergency food hamper program, the various programs that are supporting people who are food insecure. It's a gesture, especially if you're getting a check biweekly like we are. I promise you this. Some of our check is going to that, and I hope it gets right to Grant's front door. Deserves it. Kyle, good afternoon. Free Phones Friday to you.
It's payday!
Oh, yeah, baby. Payday. Give some to the food programs. Let's go.
I got a question for you. When are you getting Kitchener-Cooney back on?
Kitchener-Cooney. He texts me every once in a while. What do you want to hear from him?
Ask him why every single weather app is different for temperature-wise, because the one on my GPS says it's going to be only +1 for tonight. On my phone, it says it's going to be -1. Your radio station says it's going to feel like it's going to be -4, feeling -10. I thought we all get our weather from Environment Canada, which is one place.
No, we definitely do not.
We don't?
We're trying to break up the weather monopoly, Kyle. Come on.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I just want to figure out where does this actually come from? Because the Doppler radar is a Doppler radar to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one place. So can you ask him the next time he's on, why are there so many variations on different apps for the weather in one single area that doesn't move?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have
You're
a good
welcome.
weekend, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. You too. I'm here for you. I have decided, I'm going to say this anyway because I have no filter. I'm Radio Jesus. Whatever you need, okay? Like, just give me some water to walk on because I'm here for you, baby. And if you want an answer to a question, I'm going to text Cooney right now. I'm going to ask him. Maybe Cooney's listening right now. But we had to break up the weather monopoly held by Environment Canada, right? They had the market cornered on weather. Now everybody's a weather person. I'm a weather person. It's cloudy right now. See, that's eyewitness weather for you right outside my studio window. I had some fun with that whole idea of the different apps. And you know how many of us today with modern technology in our cars has a temperature gauge in it. This was a long time ago on another radio station right in this building. But I riffed on that. We had so much fun playing who's in the warmest spot in the region. Like, tell us what your temperature in your car says, because it always reads differently from one car to the next, right? You can open your app. My beloved and I have different weather apps on our phones, and they tend to say different things. I don't know. Here's what I know for sure, though. When you walk out your front door, the weather you get is the weather. Like, what the hell difference does it make? 7 degrees, 4 degrees, 12 degrees. Meh. That's just me. Kyle wants to know. And Radio Jesus will find out for you. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Mommy, where's Daddy? He's been gone for so long. Do you think he'll ever come home?
I love Fridays on this show so much. I just love them so much. Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass, told me during that commercial break, next request is Ballad of Dwight Fry. It's from Mark, so you can guess who the song is performed by. No, really, Dev, I can't. I mean, who? Oh, it's from Mark. So you mean it's Alice Cooper. We had a different Mark request a song on the show earlier this week, which was not Alice Cooper. And one of you regular loyal listeners, bless your loyal hearts, said, if it's the usual Mark, I'm glad he knows something besides Alice Cooper. No, it wasn't. This one is from that Mark, and he wants to hear Alice Cooper's Ballad of Dwight Fry. All Request Fridays here on the program. It is the Free Phones Friday hour as we continue taking your calls. What's on your mind as we head into the weekend? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Walk your street, and I walk mine. And should we meet, would you spare me some time?
I dig your vibe out there, Farwell Show listeners. I dig it. Although I gotta say, Joe sends in this request for Blue Collar by Bachman Turner Overdrive. So earlier today, Andre requested the Headpins, who are opening along with April Wine for Bachman Turner Overdrive in April when BTO comes to the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Yesterday on the show, and you may have heard Bob call earlier this hour, complimenting me on the little contest we played, finished that BTO song lyric because we had tickets to give away to the show, and we played a bit of a BTO song, and then if you could finish the lyrics, you would win tickets to the show. And Joe was our first caller, but he couldn't finish the lyrics on Taking Care of Business. If your train's on time, you can get to work by 9, but Joe thought it was if you change your mind. Anyway, Joe still wants to hear some BTO on All Request Friday today. And it's a great choice. I'm just surprised Joe has got the jam to listen to BTO after he was so close to those tickets yesterday, but alas, fell just short. It is Free Phones Friday, your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Always a good time hearing from you. Bob, you are next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Hello, Robert.
It's just Bob.
Okay, Bob. I'm just Mike then.
Okay.
Okay.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
why does the Alberta Conservatives feel they have to tell us how to vote? And why hasn't Pierre told them to stay out of it?
What do you mean?
Well, it's just saying about, the carbon tax and what it's supposed to be. Sooner or later, you're going to have pay the tax. They want to scrap it, but that's not going to work. And I got a suggestion for you. A question for you, should say, really.
Oh, okay. I love both suggestions and questions, so hit me.
With the Republicans in power in the States, and if the Conservatives get in power up here, instead of doing the weather, you could just play smoke on the water. Smoke on the water and fire in the sky, because that's how it's going to be.
Now, is that a question, Bob, or is that a suggestion?
A suggestion.
Yeah, you said, okay, but you said you were going to ask me a question. Now I'm disappointed. I wanted to answer a question today. I feel like I'm on Jeopardy, and I want to show you how smart I am.
Okay, well, I'm still going to say the same thing as the other time. How does Pierre think the tax cuts are going to help the hospitals? In the provinces look after health care in the provinces when they're getting less money. And what's he going to do for the people? He says he wants the people that want to work. What's he going to do to help the people that can't work?
Great questions, Bob. We'll have to ask them of Mr. Poilievre, because I am not responsible for that particular portfolio. I will say, when it comes to the elimination of GST on new homes sold for under $1 million, I was impressed. I mean, you don't have to like the math or even the idea, but I was impressed that he had it all costed out by canceling the Housing Accelerator Fund, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting the other part, but to make up the $8 billion or however many billion, I think it was 8, that his plan would cost. So at least that was thought through. In terms of healthcare funding or helping those who are unable to work, I wish I could answer that for you, but I can't. So clearly, as I've known for a long time, not smart enough to be on Jeopardy. Not this guy. Greg, over to you on Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, just two quick things.
Okay.
First of all, I got to give kudos to that Mark, that ballad of Dwight Fry. That whole album rocks. That was one of the first ones I got into, thanks to my 3 older sisters cranking it all the time. It's like, yeah, this works for me too, and haven't heard that one in a long time. So anyways, kudos there. And secondly, grab that email of the reply all one. Hit reply all yourself just once.
No way. No, I will not contribute to the madness. No way. No.
Just one?
No.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because how about you just say, have any of you ever heard of what has the blind copy function? And leave it at that.
But Greg, no, blind copy still sends it to everybody. You just don't know who it's being sent to.
Well, no, but then when you hit reply all, it's only going to be that one person.
Right, that one person. You're right.
That's what I'm saying. That's what they should have done.
But there have been lots, if you were listening, there were like, I don't know how many people that were saying, please, I'm begging you, stop using reply all.
Yeah, right, I know, and then that's the thing. But then I'm just saying, just maybe.
No, I refuse to.
Everybody, hey, remember blind copy. Keep that in mind for next time. Anyway, just an idea if you wanted to shut some of them up, maybe, but I'll leave it in your capable hands like usual.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Okay.
Enjoy your day. I refuse to contribute to the reply all madness. I honestly pretend like I'm in the Senate before I hit a reply all. Sober second thought. Do I really need to reply all? And if I do, I do. But I take it very seriously before I hit reply all. Francis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Mine's kind of a two-part.
Okay.
President Joe Biden, he didn't stand a chance with Trump not allowing him to be a president, with him being what I call a hemorrhoid. And then my second part is, if Trump would have been a person of color and started that riot at the White House, would he still be around? That's my sentiment.
All right, Francis. Just before I let you go, sorry, who's the hemorrhoid, Biden or Trump?
Well, Trump, of course.
Of course. Okay. I might have lost you. It might have been my fault for not listening closely enough. And if Donald Trump was a person of color, would the Capitol riot have turned out differently? Would he still be around? Interesting question posed by you. I love the hypotheticals. I know what we're getting at. It's not subtle or too subtle for me, Francis. I hear you. Donald Trump 2.0 is coming soon to a theater near you. And that theater, it's the Big Top Circus in the United States. God bless America. It's your Free Phones Friday edition of the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. I got to tell you, Kyle has really been picking up his all-request game these last few weeks. Oh, baby. Kyle and I could actually be friends if he wants to keep requesting Chilliwack and riding high your all-request Friday here on the Mike Farwell Show. Chilliwack so named for that suburb of Vancouver, right? There's another suburb of Vancouver called Nanaimo. One of my best friends cannot pronounce Nanaimo. We tease him all the time. What are those, baked things with the, I don't even know what's all in the nougat and the chocolate. And anyway, and he just, Nanaimo bars. I don't know why that was something I thought I had to share, but I did. Back to the phones. It's Free Phones Friday. Joe, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mike.
Joseph?
Yeah, I'm a little upset with myself because I got lazy and complacent. I only laid off a smaller number of bets on the Trump election. And so I could have made so much more money like I did the first time. And but, the thing that people need to understand, Canadians, they need to understand Americans. You need to get to know Americans. You got to go down there, and then you'll understand what's happening and why this is happening. These polls, I don't know where they come up with these polls. And who are the people that are responsible for the criteria that makes up these polls? Or I don't know. But they couldn't be more wrong. The first time I voted, or not voted, but bet on Trump to win, I had gone down to USA previously on business when I still had my business. And the Americans from Buffalo all the way to Idaho, all across the board, just unanimously could not stand the Democrats. They hated Hillary Clinton, absolutely hated her with a passion. And not much has changed other than Barack Obama. He was pretty credible and charismatic. So the fault lies on the Democrats and Joe Biden, especially, for submarining this election. He should have stepped down a while ago and got a real leader to step in there. I know you're not going to replace Barack Obama or somebody of that charisma, that magnitude, but man, the Americans, they do not like democratic policies, and they are so much different than we are. It's unbelievable. It's overwhelmingly unbelievable. So I'm not shocked at all. I called it again, and I won money. I just didn't win enough this time. Damn it.
All right, Joe. Lazy and complacent. I'll just remind you of a T-shirt I saw while on vacation over the summer. Nobody cares. Work harder. Glad you won some money, though. Jack, over to you. Free Phones Friday. Good afternoon.
My request is I like to hear Glass Tiger and Thin Red Line.
Come on now. Some more CanCon. I like it.
And stuff. I used to like them, and I still
You used to like them. Do you still like them?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I still listen to them, too, even though they're kind of old.
They are kind of old.
It's still good to listen to it every now and then.
All right, Jack. We'll find some Glass Tiger if we're able. We're coming up on the end of the show, but we can always save some Thin Red Line for next week on All Request Friday, too. I love it. Glass Tiger. Whew. Jeffrey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I just wanted to express, it seems like I'm in a small boat here, but express great positivity and thankfulness for Trump getting in. I think, I just, for a while there, when he used to get up, or he's still getting up, I guess, but when he would get up and preach about some of what he wanted to change and some of the policies and stuff like that, then you would hear some of the feedback from people. People weren't on board, it seemed, through the media and whatnot, but the people spoke. Very nice, and I think that soon in Canada the people will speak too. Just quickly on Bill's point there a few minutes ago.
Why are you happy and positive about Donald Trump? Because he did what he said he was going to do? Like, what's bringing you happiness?
I just really, first of all, kind of, I don't want to answer that question.
No, just, how about Jeffrey, how about you just answer it? What is it about Donald Trump's reelection that gives you happiness and positivity?
Well, I really enjoyed, I'm not sure how many people know him before his election days, but I really enjoyed what he did in the business world throughout his younger tenures.
What's that got to do with him being president?
Well, I think negotiations and business would help him when he's at the table with other people in other countries.
Okay.
And I also think that what he's trying to initiate, ending the war in Ukraine and deporting illegal immigrants, that sounds pretty good to me.
As long as you're not an illegal immigrant.
Well, if I wasn't welcome,
or even a legal one.
Well, if I was illegally there, and then someone knocked on my door and said, "Hey, listen, you're not supposed to be here. Time to go," I'd be like, "Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't be here."
That's what we call accountability, and we all hope for it and strive for it, don't we? We stand for it on this show. Just for the record, it's the Mike Farwell Show. Free Phones Friday on 570 News Radio. Wanted to hear something in the air tonight by Thunderclap Newman. Not in the air tonight by Phil Collins, not to be confused. It is an all request Friday here on the program, noon until 1 every day, open phone lines. And this being Friday, it's the Free Phones Friday edition of your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Ernie, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. A 1-point win over the Bungles, and you've got the courage to call, eh?
Well, no, it was, I think we just like playing from behind, so we actually make the game really exciting. Like, I was sweating like crazy, Mike. We're lucky to get that one through.
Attaboy.
But anyways, just like still on this Trump talk here. But I found it pretty interesting. As a misogynist, like he appointed the first woman chief of staff yesterday. So Susan Wild is the first chief of staff in the American government there. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The other thing, too, like as a racist, 1 in 3 blacks and Latinos voted for him for the first time ever as a Republican. So that's wild, too. I don't know, I know there's a lot of negativity. We can talk about his court cases and stuff like that. I'm not deflecting from that, Mike. I know a lot of people do not like him, but he's going to bring something to this country that the people really needed and seen. And as far as our leader here, there's people that protested, and they were called racist. They're abusing the system and this stuff here. I think we should look at our leader a little bit more on those comments instead of just the other side and looking at him. So that's all I got to say, Mike. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Ernie. Appreciate the call. Baltimore Ravens, a 1-point win over the Cincinnati Bengals in NFL action last night. I'm aware of this because I know Ernie is a Ravens fan, and I also forgot to make my pick in the office pool, and I gave it away because everybody picked Baltimore. Actually, I was thinking of taking Cincinnati anyway, but I hate falling behind just because I forgot to make my pick. Can't have that happen, especially when I make a side bet with the boss to see who has more picks right at the end of the year, and now he's one more ahead of me. Kitchener-Cooney comes through as he always does. Kyle was wondering earlier, how come one app to another app to another app for the weather shows me a different expected high, low, whatever the case may be, even though I'm looking at the forecast for the same geographical region? And Kitchener-Cooney says because each app runs off a different computer model or combination of models. If all apps are basically showing the same forecast, the confidence is high that the forecast will be correct. There you go, Kyle. Straight from the lips of Kitchener-Cooney, our good friend from Environment Canada. I got to get skedaddle. There is lots to do before the big Ranger game tonight. Paul Fixter and I will be on the air with your Harris Law pregame show starting at 6:30. Before that, all news afternoons with Paul McPhee and Aaron Anderson. And before that, Now You Know with Rob Snow. That's coming right up. Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.